Time is now 6:35 on November 25th. I call to order the special meeting of Monee Village Board. If you'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Here.
Gray.
Here.
Holston.
Present.
Warren.
Here.
Pop. Here. And Reese.
Present.
Communication.
Yes. Let's pray. Father God, you are good, and your mercy endures to us forever. We want to thank you this evening for your faithfulness that has endured to us for many generations, all generations, Father. Lord, at this time of year, we just want to stop and enter this time right now with thanksgiving. Thanks for how you blessed us in our individual lives, in our families, in our communities, and in our country. And Lord, we want to pray for our country right now. Lord, the turmoil that is going on in our midst and on the news, Lord, we just ask for your peace to reign in our communities, over our police and fire, in our schools, in our homes. Lord, that you would just help us to approach each other with humbleness, with kindness, that we would love each other as we love ourselves and as we love you, Father God. We humble ourselves before you even right now, recognizing that all that we have is from you. And Lord, we ask that you would guide the proceedings of this meeting, the government that happens here, and the community and the families that it governs. And your blessing would rest upon each one at this time of year as we give thanks. That each family gathers around tables in this coming days. Lord, may we all stop and just remember what truly matters in this life. And may we give you the glory, give you the praise, and you the thanks. For it's your Son Jesus' name that we pray. Amen. Amen.
I want to make a preface here. Since this is technically a special meeting, our regular meeting was canceled in lieu of having the meeting on Tuesday from Wednesday. Only agenda items, things that are on the agenda as an item, are permissible to be discussed. Is that correct, Larry?
Yes, sir.
So just kind of keep that in the framework. So at this point, I'll open to the public agenda items only. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Come to the podium and give your name and address. Okay, no takers. I understand a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Holston and Razik. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gray.
No.
Holston.
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Pop.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Clerk's report.
I have no report, Your Honor.
You guys are blessed to know that I have this is the time of the year when I typically lose my voice, so I have no report from that either.
Thanks for your prayer, Pastor.
Blessings come in all different settings.
Administrator's report.
Okay, first up is our call one contract. It expired September 1st. We have now moved into a much higher billing cycle. November's bill we just received is $53.45.85. Over the last few months, the billing staff has reached out to vendors. There's been a total of 8 vendors actually that we've looked at. Of the 8, there's 5 companies that came to the village and gave us demonstrations. Out of those 5, there was 3 that we looked at very closely, but it's still kind of comparing apples to oranges. Some companies would provide equipment, but not a service we're looking for, or others would provide a service, but not necessarily the equipment that we were looking for. But the staff at this point, recommend that one of them be considered to the board, and our recommendation would be Urban Communication. They are currently recruited by South Suburban mayors and managers to manage the fiber network. And as you know, the fiber network is starting here in Monee and is up the interstate and supplying high-speed internet connection, fiber connection to the south suburbs. So Urban Communication is managing that network. Their equipment is housed in our basement. They would also offer, on top of the service, handsets to every extension within all the village buildings. So here at the Village Hall, they would provide handsets to the police department, handsets, DPW handsets, and it will all be part of the package. They're a hosted managed system, so they would manage the system either remotely or here on site, depending on what the issue may be, instead of a vendor sending a contracted company to come out and take care of our issues or any failures that might occur. Urban can handle that problem for us. And there was no other company that can actually do any of these things that I've listed so far. It would also bring connectivity to our buildings. So at this time, if anyone from the public calls the Village Hall and they're actually looking for the police department, we have to provide the number to the police department for them to call directly. We can't switch the call to the police department, and vice versa. So this service would also provide connectivity where we can just put them on hold and then forward that call to the appropriate extension. In the event of an emergency or a disaster, their system would provide to us mobility. So if we had to make a command center, we had numerous agencies coming in, police, fire, EMA, FEMA, IEMA, whatever that agency might be. It would bring us a phone system that can be remote. If it took out our phone system here, we would still have connectivity and be able to use our handsets, I should say our cell phones. The number could be forwarded to our cell phones, and our cell phones then can still work on behalf of the village. And, we can conduct business. We can also, through a cell phone, remotely access the Village Hall and put recordings. So if there was a disaster, if we've got tornadoes, we've got a blizzard coming, we're going to open up the Village Hall. We can change our voicemail, our greeting to the public. We can put that message that needs to be put there with this service, which we're not able to do now. Also with our fiber network, we're advertising on WLS, and one of the things we're talking about is to entice businesses, our connectivity in this fiber network, this high speed. And it probably would be good sense that we're actually using the equipment if we're advertising it to potential businesses to come to Monee. So with that, the cost would be somewhere less than $1,600. Back a few months ago, prior to our plan expiring, that was roughly about what we were paying. I believe $1,468, $1,498, somewhere in there was our monthly cost. So we would get this plus the handsets, plus if the board approved the availability to the high-speed internet, we'd be able to use that as well. And at this, you know, there's some questions?
Questions, anyone?
Is there extra charge for the internet?
Yes.
Yes.
Charge for what?
The extra charge for the internet. So we would have, and I'm going to kind of defer to either Mayor or to Darryl on this part, but it would be $300, and right now we're paying $245 for internet service, which is limited bandwidth, limited on the data as well. And with this high speed forward, roughly $55, $60 more, we would have.
Yeah, all right, just to clarify, so what we have now is we have Comcast for our data service to the buildings. And we're getting about 28 download and about 8 meg upload, and that's based on burst rates and all that kind of thing. With this provision that they would have here, it'd be 30 and 30. So it would be 30 download and 30 upload both. So, and it's all, because it's over fiber, you're also dealing with a direct path back to the closest hub, which is an open forest, as compared to being bundled in with everybody between here and Peatone back to Homewood and all that for the other circuits.
Then we're gonna have the new Comcast one.
Correct, as far as once the transition would be accomplished, that would be correct. We would still use Comcast for television service and things like that we have for, watching the weather, different things of that sort that they have in different places, but yes.
So you said then the internet would be an extra 300 a month,
It would be in place of the Comcast ultimately.
but 300 a month, so we're up to 1,900 a month?
That's from a different, that's from the fiber network, Southland Fiber Network. Urban is the one that is managing that implementation, but yes, it would be the 15 something plus the 300.
Whereas now we're paying, or I should say, prior to this new bill, we were paying somewhere close to 1,500 plus 245. So,
About the same.
yeah, so about the same.
And this is a.
Without the handsets and the antiquated system.
And this is a voice over IP, and that's how we're able to do all this stuff?
Correct.
And just so, the board's aware that we've taken we've been very methodical in looking at all the equipment that's out there and that's available. I hate to say it, kind of what-ifing with a lot of this equipment. We saw that, technology is changing. What are our needs here and how can this best fit our needs?
This includes like a service contract then too?
The management and services are included, whereas right now, we currently are paying Fiday to come in and deal with our phones occasionally, or have to replace a phone, different things like that. I'm not sure what we've been paying for that specifically, but we've been missing voicemail messages here from time to time.
I just had mentioned to Michelle for the meeting, I had received a call 10 days prior to our last board meeting. It popped up the day of the board meeting and someone wanted to be part of our system, so our calls are getting missed. And I know it sounds like a bad excuse, but in this day and age, we've got to have this information. And this has happened a couple of times. There's a couple of extensions where calls are being missed and then popping up later in the system.
How long is the contract for? Is it open-ended?
I believe it's a 5-year contract.
Can we clarify that?
I think it's, go ahead.
Now, there's a couple of items I believe that we would actually want to incorporate. I know trustee Worden, when we talked earlier, the billing part, and we would want a 30 or 40 day. That would be something that would be requested, expected to be part of the contract as well. I believe we can offer several things, and the length of it will be one thing. So we will clarify that.
So currently, I know their billing, they have, their bills are, I'm familiar with the company, because my business actually, I didn't have anything to do with this contract, getting the contract at all, but I use them for my phone service, and I know their invoices are due upon receipt. Now, that is not, I've never heard of that. No other vendor that I work with does that kind of stuff. It's usually 30 days, so. I don't want, if, they want it, I guess they want the bill the day of you get the bill, they want it cut. Well, that's completely unreasonable, I think. So that's why I brought that up to our administrator. So at
And
least 30 days.
And that's something that, Gerald, that you can bring up to them with your finance policy, that we need to get that done.
Correct. I don't think it'd be a big deal to have that changed.
Okay. More discussion?
Clarify again, you said they will provide all the phones?
Correct.
And so what do we do with all of these?
So here's my question on we're talking about clarification and 30 days to cut it straight. Can we have this all in writing before we take this vote on this?
Yeah, I think my suggestion would be there, and I agree, I want the board to actually review the actual contract. But just as a matter of practice and formalities, if you guys want to review the contract, Ruben, I believe you have a copy of that. Daryl has a copy of it, you guys have both reviewed it. I just want to be careful about, and we don't need to vote to approve the contract at this point. We just need probably more of a affirmation to allow the administrator to contact them and work out those minor,
Get more details.
those details. But because it is kind of like a bid process, you want to be careful about disclosing all the information and then exposing, and then if all of a sudden you guys were to say, you know what, take it back, I think I want Polycom instead of Cisco phones or something like that, and, you know, so these are actually Cisco branded phones, not lesser brand, you know, Polycom or whatever else, so, but just as an example, you know, if you were to change the terms of that, and then all of a sudden you've already revealed what somebody's open bid was, that's kind of a, you just want to be careful of that, that's all.
Yeah.
So, I guess at this point, can we get not a confirmation to sign a contract, but merely to work out those final details, and then at our next meeting, I think we have one scheduled for
December 10th?
3rd. Could we,
Well, that is,
we could theoretically have it adjusted by then with those terms. I mean, I just don't want to have another month of $5,000 for a phone bill if we don't have to. That's my concern. So, and it takes 3 to 4 weeks to port phone numbers over, from what I understand, so I don't want to drag that unnecessarily either. So, maybe the best way to do this would be to simply give the administrator authorization to tweak those
Yes, sir.
arrangements,
Yes, sir.
and then present a contract for the board to approve,
Yes, sir.
and with the expectation that as long as those conditions are met, we'd be okay.
Well, you say conditions, but it's just one condition. isn't it?
Well, the condition that you indicated about the
The length of the contract.
length of the contract, as well as the 30, net 30.
Yeah, you said it was 45. It's a 5-year contract, right? We know that.
Well, yeah, but you just want a clarification here. I thought it was a 5-year, but just to confirm that. So net 30 and 5-year renewable or something of that sort for the contract.
Well, if we don't pass it now, it's gonna cost us another $5,000?
It already will because
It's gonna take us- Yeah.
Sorry.
It probably already will because it's probably already in the next billing cycle if Daryl just cut that check, so we're already gonna get another one.
Well, if we wait 2 weeks, yeah, it's gonna be another $2,500 of it because of the deferment on that. So,
I don't have a problem if we made a motion, if it passed,
Well,
as
we
long
based
as,
on
as
those
long
conditions.
as long as they agree. Put that as a contingency, for the 30 days and the 5 years.
Okay, can we ask our finance director, Daryl? Is this
There
what
it
we're
is.
looking
We're in
at?
discussions, that's good.
Is this, are we looking at, if we don't, just say, we don't pass this tonight, we don't make the motion to pass it, what are we looking at financially for the next 2 weeks?
Well, considering that each month is about 5,000, be about another 25, 27, 3,000.
Okay, because technically our next board meeting isn't until December 10th, but we do have a open to the whole meeting December 3rd.
Correct.
Is that going, okay, thanks for your information, don't leave though, we might not be doing it, going to our attorney, is that legal to pass it that night?
If you put it on the agenda, correct, but right now, the way we have it, it just says phone system upgrade. You're gonna pass a 5-year contract, you want the agenda being specific, authorizing the execution of the contract with whatever vendor we choose, so I know it's 2 weeks, but I think it's probably more than appropriate, because it's a 5-year contract, it's so much a month, I would think you want it pretty specific on the agenda, because all we have, phone system upgrade, we're not supporting. If we're gonna award a contract of that magnitude, I think it might be very specific.
Why 5 years? I've not heard of any phone contracts go that long.
Well, because they're including the handsets, and they're also including, Daryl, I think you indicated that they're also including all the closet equipment we would need here for the power over Ethernet switches and things of that sort to connect those devices.
All the equipment,
So they're fronting, they're basically absorbing, and that's what the other vendors did also, they're fronting the equipment. And part of it, they need a certain amount of time to make sure they recoup their investment in the hardware on the front end.
And everything's got full warranty, so if a phone breaks down for a year or so, replace it.
They cover it completely.
Sounds good.
Okay, so if we decide to move this to December 3rd instead of tonight, we're looking at $2,500? Ballpark?
Well, if we're looking at another week, yeah, potentially 2,500, because I would think you approve it on December 3rd, and then you're still gonna need time to, get things in place.
Okay. But going to the attorney's advice, we just were system upgrade. We didn't have actually,
Action to be taken.
I'd just rather be cautious. We could probably tell them to proceed, but the final authority hasn't been issued yet. I'd just rather be
cautious that,
cautious.
just jump because we like that plan the best, but we want everything in writing.
But it's almost like sometimes we need a survey of the board when you have something that comes up, not to say that you're preempting that, but as an example, you still have to take your final vote on the 3rd.
Right.
Which is fine, as long as the board's
Just
consensus
as long-
now is,
yeah.
as long as everything's consistent, you're fine with it. Because part of the process that takes place there is porting over those numbers, and that takes time, especially through the holidays. I'm not sure what delays will be incurred with that as well, so just something to think about. So, is it okay, Larry, to ask for a consensus of with those contingencies?
I guess a consensus, as long as they, again, realize it's not final action, so the vendor realizes that the board's not,
Improving.
it's not exactly, okay? And I would, 1 week should hopefully make or break them, they realize in good faith they can start the work, but until the board actually approves the mayor signing it, there's no contract.
And actually, I'd have to, I think, myself or the administrator would have to sign the port request. So if we don't have authorization to do that, then we just have to wait till the 3rd anyhow, I guess. So, but can we get a consensus? Are we okay with this? Can we get
Yes.
is that a roll call or?
So, or like a motion to move forward
Yes,
with the contract?
to authorize
Sure.
the administrator to proceed with the vendor.
Final negotiations on that.
Yes, sir.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Holston and Raisik. Roll call.
Trustee Holston? Moore?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Raisik?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Next item, sir.
Next item is the tax lien acquisitions. I believe we're going to table that and
Good.
and then, and the last thing is the comprehensive plans. It was brought up earlier, December 3rd, next week, Wednesday, we'll have a meeting of the whole. And at that point, a comprehensive plan will be presented. We've got Tyson Engineering, who's working right now with DJ, Public Works.
What's the name of engineering?
Tyson Engineering, Jeff Hagan is working with DJ now, and their team are assessing our infrastructure needs. I've asked DJ to locate our top 10 needs. What's critical right now that has to be fixed now? What do we need to address? And after we identify those 10 things, and our next 10 after that. And then as we look at what we need to do, I've asked Robinson Engineering, who has a GIS mapping program, to come and do then a presentation as well. The caveat with Tyson Engineering cost and infrastructure needs, and they'll present to us and how we can begin to develop a comprehensive plan, putting a plan together for 1 year out, 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out. So we move out of a knee-jerk reacting mode into a proactive mode. And we're planning ahead. We're planning not only what our needs are and addressing those needs, but how are we going to pay for the needs, and how will we implement that. The system also is able to put not only our infrastructure information inside, but also our commercial, our rental, our vacant lots, our property, our business owners, and so forth, and also law enforcement. What our trends are, what's our hotspots, where are accidents occurring, where burglaries or whatever types of crimes are occurring. All this data can be put into this system, and then map and help us to come up with a strategy how we put this plan in place. And finally, how do we pay for it? Once we are able to determine prior to this meeting if it's coming out of a TIF, if it's coming out of MFT, if it's coming out of an appropriated line item that we've budgeted, what is that amount that's left over? And that'll give us more of an idea of what we're talking about for the bond. And we, as you know, we've got some issues that we've got to take care of, not only this year. We just had a water main go out last week. Cold weather is already, it's starting early, and it's looking to be a long, hard winter. And some of these water mains, some of them are 80, 90 years old, and who knows how much longer some of them will last. If we'll make it through this one.
May I also mention, only because I went to look at the site, it was a bad break. And the chop saw, the motor burned up on it. So they had to go and get another chop saw. Well, look at our bills this month, you'll see there's a chop saw on with the bills, you know. So that delayed fixing it, you know, they had to temporarily close it.
So, we want to put this plan together. We want to have a united front as a board, as the administration, and move forward with a plan. And it's always easier to move and react when you have a plan. And then, instead of dealing with this in helter-skelter mode. So that's what we want to attempt to accomplish next week. Other than that, that's all I've got.
And I believe we were gonna move that to 7:30 to make sure we didn't bump into the police commission at
Yes, I'm
6:30.
glad you reminded me. We do have that police commission meeting at 6:30, if at all possible, if your schedules would permit, if we could bump it back 1 hour to 7:30.
It'll be a limited meeting.
Wait a minute, are the Hawks playing, what's going on?
I gotta work the next morning.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so do we need to have a motion to approve the special meeting on the 3rd then?
Yes, sir.
Can I just, before we go,
Yep,
before you're
please.
done, I just had a couple questions too, for the comprehensive plan part of it too. So we've got basically 3 engineering firms kind of working on different spots. We got
Farnsworth, Tyson, and Robinson.
Tyson, and forgive me, isn't that the firm that was working on the Boudreaux project?
And what?
The Boudreaux trucking?
Budrick.
Budget,
Budget?
yes, yes. Mhm.
And then Robinson is doing something with the GIS, and
Mhm.
Farnsworth is helping us with this part.
And Advantage Farms.
Advantage Point.
And then, and Vantage
The
Point,
comprehensive park plan.
so 4 of them. And I'll just say it out loud too, when there's any meeting scheduled with Vantage Point and the park plans, I would like to be included in those meetings,
Absolutely.
being the liaison.
Okay.
That's all I had, sorry, thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to approve a special meeting of the board on December 3rd to address the issues of comprehensive plan as well as the phone system final approval.
I'll make that motion.
I second it.
Horn and Pop, roll call please.
Trustee Horn,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Raisik,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes,
Gray,
Yes.
and Holston.
Yes.
Officials report. Public Works,
Nothing tonight.
okay. Parks and Recreation.
just 2 things quickly, coming up quickly, Saturday, December 6th, the village Christmas tree lighting, just to remind everybody about that, from 6:30 to 8:30. We're gonna have the official lighting with, Mr. SC out front doing the actual lighting, and then we'll move across the street to the MEC, the Monee Education Center, where the Monee Alliance of Churches is gonna have snacks for us, and coffee, hot chocolate, and music. And Mr. SC himself will be providing photo opportunities and gifts for the kids too. So to please come and bring everybody for that one. That is open to the public and also free. And secondly is the Holiday Express and the theme of helping Santa find his bag of presents. So I assume it would be almost like of a treasure hunt sort of a thing, Saturday, December 13th. And that's where we're leaving from the Richton Park train station to go downtown on the train with the families. And there's 2 rides downtown and back, 10:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. And I believe we're limited to, for our Monee folks 40 tickets per total, or 40 tickets per ride?
65 tickets per ride.
65 tickets per ride, so they upped it, I think, for us. And again, that's $15 per ticket, and includes a kid's gift bag, hot chocolate, snacks, Christmas songs, and all the ambiance that goes along with it on that train ride. And Santa himself is gonna be on that train ride, and apparently a live band too at the Van Buren Station downtown before our return trip back. So 2 really neat Christmas things coming up. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Finance,
No report tonight.
business development?
Yes, sir. I attended the Will County Center for Economic Development meeting last month, as I have for the last 12 months. They're working on their Will County Transportation Blueprint for 2015. The meeting will be next month to lay that out. A couple of things that they went over were some of the action items that they have accomplished over the years, and key projects include funding and building the I-355 extension, constructing a new interchange at I-55 and Arsenal Road, widening Route 59, adding lanes on I-80, constructing new interchange on I-55 and Route 59, widening Route 30, and the new interchange at I-294 and I-57, which I recently used myself, and constructing a new interchange at I-57 and Stumpville Road, which is currently under work. They're going to add a couple things for next year, for the 2015 plan that are of interest to the village of Monee. One is to put on their rail transit project list a stop for Metro in Monee. Now, this is a long-range plan, by the way. This will not happen in the next 12 months, but it's one that at least we want on the table so that they can make sure that from the village of Monee side, this is something that's very important to us. And then the second would be additional bus service in Monee that would be available for people. I've had a number of constituents ask about bus service from Monee going to outside of Monee into other areas. So these are 2 things that are going to be added to their project list. The Will County CED over the last 10 years has been very successful in implementing and working with the various Will County agencies to implement some of these programs in transportation, which is one of the reasons that the Will County area is the largest inland port in the United States. So we'll continue to work with them, but I think that they're doing a good job of paying attention to the Monee area, and I think we'll probably see some benefit to that in the future. And report.
Thank you. Building services and code enforcement?
No report.
Thank you. Public safety employees?
No reports,
And Mr. Gurcheski?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have 3 items for board's consideration. The first item, if the board recalls, High Street Equities made a proposal through Attorney Worden to extend the TIF note for their property on Ridgeland Avenue. We've been in negotiations with Ms. Worden and her client. The proposal tonight would be for me to draft the ordinance for final review at the, I guess we could put it on December 3rd meeting with the pleasure of the mayor and the board. But they've offered, meaning High Street Equities, they asked us to extend the TIF note to them. In return, they will,
How many years?
2026. Right now, currently is the maturity date currently is 2022. The maturity as proposed would be 2026. 0% interest, which I think was a critical point from our standpoint. They would pledge, they ask us to pledge 80% of the increment as opposed to 90% of the increment. They have offered to help us, help the village, I should say, subsidize some improvements out there in the amount of $350,000, which would be due at the time the ordinance would be in effect. They've also, as they indicated before, will be making some tenant improvements out there. They asked us to help with the tenants' improvements in order to obviously attract a tenant, which I believe they're, from what I understand, they might be close in attracting a tenant out there. They've also indicated they would sign an employment agreement, thereby having a job fair, hopefully with some of our residents being hired from the site. That property will be vacant, I believe, in 9 to 10 months. It's a large piece of property. They have been negotiating with myself, Mr. Batista, I know the mayor's been involved, but I know Ms. Reardon's here tonight in case there's any questions, but we're looking at least board input to authorize me to do a final draft of the ordinance with the terms as specified herein. Just for the board's background, I'll keep this quick. The property was annexed into the village in 2003. The TIF was amended in 2003. The agreement with Bailey Ridge was signed for 4.5 in 2004. It was subsequent assigned to a company called LaSalle Principal. That was then assigned, meaning the note, to High Street Equities, who is the present owner of the note. The note, like any other note, is assignable with the board's permission, but a lot of times every note that is signed usually is assigned for lending purposes. But these are the terms that we're looking at. The increment is pretty substantial, the 90% to the 80%. It's a pretty good sized increase to the village. Again, no interest on this note, and they would contribute $350,000.
Larry, I need to ask, so the original TIF district was started in what year?
I want to say 2009.
2003,
The original TIF?
Original?
because this property wasn't.
I'm not talking about your property, Mr. Reardon. I'm talking about the original TIF.
The very first TIF 3, I think, was 2000, we amended in 2003.
To include this, right?
That was ordinance 1258, 1259, and 1260.
Okay. So in 2001 it was originated, Mr. Bautista?
It's 2000,
2000.
December.
And that one would have expired,
23 years, so 2024. And I believe this site, if I remember correctly, this was Bailey Ridge. This site, we hired King McKenna to do a study to see if it did qualify. And this site, along with some other property on Ridgeland Avenue, did qualify. And that's where we amended in October of 2003. And that's under ordinance 1258, 1259, 1260. And I believe the redevelopment plan as presented by our consultant at that time did indicate that the plan could extend up to, I think, December of, I believe, 2026.
so before we can make a decision on this, I believe we still need an absolute legal clarification on whether an expanded TIF district subsequent to the origination of the TIF district gets 23 years of its own, or if it is capped at the original for the district that it was formed into. So, and I know, I've called down to Springfield, tried to get some answers as well, and I've yet to get that answer. I know it's been recorded in the county, but before, as a board, we can make a decision and enter into an agreement. We gotta be careful to make sure that it's truly according to what the Illinois statutes indicate the provision would be for that.
Yes, sir. What I was going to propose was have the date of 2026 or when the TIF expires, whichever comes first. So in the event, Mayor, I see your point. I believe it is 2026, but if it expired earlier than that, or they got paid in full before that, the TIF note at that point in time would terminate.
That makes sense. That way we don't have to get an answer right away to determine the relevance of it.
Correct.
Discussion from the board on this? I know it's been said before, we don't necessarily like to negotiate an open forum. I think that there's some concerns that I've heard from the administrator, from some of the trustees, about some of the specifics of the numbers and such. I'm not so sure that it's, I don't want to defer this, just like, you know, we don't want to defer a contract for anything if we don't need to, but we also need to make sure that the numbers are comfortable with. Mr. Bautista, do you mind, do you believe it's close to being where it needs to be, or do you think that you need another week
Mr.
to?
Mayor, before we start, can I say something?
I'm still talking to him right now.
Okay.
Do you think it's,
I think there's a few issues that probably have to be solidified, some of the trustees.
before we'd actually
Right.
enter into a specific of, otherwise, if you agree to this, I mean, some of you have expressed some desire to see a couple numbers changed.
And correct me if I'm wrong, County Respectfully, there's been some dialogue as well with Mr. Reardon, reference to some of the things I think that the board is negotiating. And
Yes, there's been quite a bit of dialogue between myself and Mary. This is their proposal. You know, it is, there's no general obligation behind this. It's what they basically call, it's a high yield bond. If they perform and they pay their taxes, they get paid. Again, if they don't, just like everybody else in the area, there is no obligation from the village. There's no GO behind it. The pledge is strictly from their portion of the real estate tax. That's-
If I could, to keep the momentum going, so we don't have to wait for another transition time, if we were to defer a decision, if we were to just simply take a motion to table it for another, until the next meeting, even if it's the third, Attorney Guczewski could go ahead and draft a preliminary thing that would only need to be changed, would possibly be numbers. At least we can still make momentum, because it's still gonna have to come before the board for final action anyhow. That way we're not slowing the process down unnecessarily. If we're close, then it could be an up or down vote at the next meeting. Would that be a way to keep it moving without, and Mr. Olson, you had something you wanted to interject there?
I think it's inadvisable to negotiate in public, period.
Agreed.
We did that with Bud Rick and it backfired. I don't think we should do it here.
Okay. Trustees? I see your hand, but I just want to survey the board real quick.
And I would just had, I know we had talked about this, but asking just general questions of Mary, if I could, just if we're gonna move ahead with some negotiations too. And then there's just a couple things that I'm, you want us to subsidize some improvements and then subsidize some improvement to the land and the acquisition and all that, and then help with some improvements to the property as well?
No, in fact, I think the thinking was, if I may, I'm Mary Reardon, the thinking was originally that High Street would contribute to the village $300,000, and if the village chose to make those improvements, it could. So it would be the money that was given to the village by High Street, and then High Street, then the village would have the discretion to use that money how it saw fit. And over the last week or 10 days between your administrator and your attorney, that money, I've got some bruises on my head, that money's gone from $300,000 to $350,000. So now the way I understand it is that the extension would become effective only upon the payment of $350,000 from High Street to the village. Then the village could use that for improvements as it saw fit in its discretion. So.
And then Mr. Guczewski too, if we were to help subsidize some of the improvements out there too, and with their pledge, we can use TIF money to help with our expenditures to do those improvements as well?
The TIF monies have to be inside the TIF district.
So, yes,
So
Or contingent
you
to
would-
it.
pardon?
contingent.
Or contingent to it.
Correct, contiguous,
Contiguous, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry.
contingent, right. No, you can, since
So,
thanks to Mayor Daley, now anytime there's a TIF district with one contiguous, you can use increment in any other TIF district. So for example, if you had GO bonds in one of your TIF districts, and it was contiguous to this one, you could say, take that $350,000, if you chose, and use it towards debt service, or whatever improvement in any of the TIF districts.
Mayor
Or-
Daley did that in Will County too?
Pardon?
Mayor Daley did that in Will County too?
No, but he brought us the statute in Springfield. He expanded that, so.
it is in our redevelopment plan too, but I can't, if it's contiguous, you could use, and we've done it before in other places, You use that money from one TIF to another TIF to pay TIF eligible expenses, or improvements that you want to make inside that TIF. You can't go outside that TIF, but inside the TIF, you can use those funds.
Since this is a private payment though, and this is just my legal opinion, the intent is that High Street would give the money, write the check to the village, and the village could use it as a soft bid. So, and again, that's going to 50,000.
Could potentially go towards the parks improvements. I'm looking at Heidi over here. All right. So, you recommend that we table it in lieu of additional negotiations and paperwork being drafted?
Yes, sir, all we're trying to do, myself and Mr. Batista, is inform the board where we stand. We've been on the phone quite a bit with Ms. Worden, so we're not trying to negotiate right now. But it's from our position to at least let the board know where we stand. From her position, Ms. Worden, her client, based out of Boston, is, sort of, I would say, anxious to see where the board stands. They've been in here at least twice. So all we're trying to do is keep the board updated. Final decision, if the board deems appropriate, can be made at the December 3rd meeting. I'll get the march orders from the mayor and Mr. Batista as to the terms, but these were the terms as presented most recently as of, Friday.
I'll entertain a motion to table this with an effort for the attorney and Mr. Bautista to tweak the negotiations, and please, as trustees, I said the next day or two, but it ends up being a holiday, but regardless, please contact Mr. Bautista and tell him specifically your concerns and preferences on this particular area of negotiation, so that we can all be close to being on the same page, so that something can be approved or not, but at least we're consistent in that.
Would be tabled to December 3rd?
December 3rd would be adequate. If we have to table it again from there, it'll just be till the 10th, but at least we're still making progress. So till the 3rd would be probably adequate.
We can make a suggestion and move that to December 10th, seeing that December 3rd, like you just mentioned, is literally next Wednesday coming out the holiday weekend.
Understood.
Give us enough time to.
It could be a status, or it could be approval at that point. I don't want to delay this unnecessarily. If they can come up with
Right.
something that's agreeable by the 3rd, let's vote on it. If not, it'll get tabled again. It just gives us an opportunity to keep it on the table and move it forward if we can.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
Gray and Gonzalez. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pop,
Yes.
Raisik,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Holston,
Yes.
and Horn.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Have a nice holiday.
You too.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is the tax levy ordinance. As the board recalls, each and every year, we have to pass a tax levy ordinance setting forth how we're going to raise the revenue for future spending. Darrell has prepared, with the help of the auditor, I believe, a proposed tax levy ordinance for the board's review and consideration. This has to be passed and filed with the county no later than the last Tuesday of December. I know Darrell and Ruben just want to give the board some idea of what it looks like. It's subject to some modifications, I believe, but it has to be, we have to have it filed with the county, again, no later than the last Tuesday of December. So you can take a look at it tonight, I believe. There's questions, obviously, I believe Darrell got some of the information from the auditor, who usually does, it's a lot of work for Darrell, but usually does prepare some of the numbers with his assistants, but it's up for the board for their, I don't think approval tonight, but at least so the board can take a look at it. Am I missing anything, Darrell?
No, that's about it. Just look it over and approve it for the county when time is needed. Like you said, it's like 3rd Tuesday of the month of December.
So do we
It
want
needs to be
to,
done by 3rd Tuesday, you said?
It's gotta be filed with the county.
Filed, okay.
So you can have it for December 10th, I believe, as long as you get it filed a couple of days later. And we got the mayor will have to sign that we're not going over 105%. If you go over 105%, you have a public hearing. I don't believe this calls for it, so you don't need a public hearing. If it went over 105%, then you need a hearing, and we haven't had one in, as far as I know, years, but this is not going over 105%.
Do we want to the 3rd or the 10th? 10th? It's fine. What time did I adjust it? If there's gonna be any concerns or issues pertaining to that, please address it ahead of time. I don't wanna get to the point where we don't have something approved. Because, I mean, if there's gonna be any hesitation on it, we have to know. So, so we'll table this until December 10th. And is that, we need a motion for that? Or
I would, Your Honor, just so we have it on the agenda. We talked about it.
I would take a motion to defer to table the tax levy ordinance for final approval on December 10th.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Pop and Gray. Roll call.
Trustee Racick,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Molston,
No?
Moore. Yes. And Pop?
Yes.
I apologize, Mr. Mayor, but I have to ask a question before we go any further. Did I hear right that we had to have this done by the second Tuesday?
Third.
Third Tuesday, okay, that's where I missed.
Second to the last Tuesday.
That's where I missed hearing that, I apologize.
So as long as we get it passed by then, we can get the paperwork down to.
Yeah, same one we did last year.
You want me to give a preface on this one? And as you know, we have gone back and forth with IDOT. None of us are exactly happy with the way that they have been resistant to municipal involvement. We had approved an ordinance doing exactly what you have in front of you tonight. They said it's not good enough. They wanted it done again. I said, I'll present it one last time, but that's pretty much it.
Yes, sir, if I may, what we're doing, all you're doing is terminating the agreement with the Feldmeyers. And they also asked us to make sure it specifically says it's not run with the land, basically it's like a covenant. They've also asked us that not only does the mayor sign off on behalf of the village, but also Mark and Mary Feldmeyer. So we sent a copy of this agreement to Mr. Hickey, who represents them. They haven't signed off on it yet, but I'm confident they will.
They did.
But
Yeah, they dropped it off.
okay, all we're doing again is reiterating our position that we terminated the pre-annexation agreement. It does not run with the land, and no future owners would be bound by this agreement. I mean, by the pre-annexation. You're just nullifying the pre-annexation agreement one more time.
You'll see two items in your packet, K3A and K3B. All we're doing is acknowledging the A as part of which is the agreement itself, and then K3B would be the ordinance authorizing the signature of that. So both exhibits have been presented for your review, but K3B is actually the one that we need an ordinance number and vote on, which then authorizes the clerk and myself to sign the agreement.
Yes, sir.
So, I'll entertain a motion, again, I'd say with a little bit of frustration, to approve the ordinance authorizing the execution of a termination agreement between the Village of Monee, Home Rule Unit of Government, Will County, Illinois, and Mark and Mary Feldmeyer, specifically related to parcel 20-21-05-400-003.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Holston and Razor. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gonzalez.
The ordinance number?
Was this something I said?
Always good.
How's that working for you?
It's going through the certificate.
Sorry for the delay, that's ordinance 1704.
That's right, 17,
04.
okay. Ready to-
Roll call.
Yes, please.
Trustee Gonzalez,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Holston,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
and Raisik.
Yes.
I have nothing further than that.
I don't believe we have any reason to go into executive session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion?
Second.
Raisik and Horn, roll call please.
Trustee Gray,
Yes.
Holston,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Raisik,
Yes.
and Gonzalez.
Yes.